Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. This is your host, the Barkeep, bringing you podcast 48 here at the Tavern, presented by HeroTaku.com. Well, as most of you all know, we've been covering a lot about Super Mega Force here at the Tavern in anticipation for its broadcast here in February. But there's one topic that Raptor and I really haven't been going over in regards to Power Rangers in general, and one of the main issues that was faced for Power Rangers Super Mega Force. And that is the fact that since Ninja Storm, Power Rangers has been filmed primarily in New Zealand. Now, the whole reason this was done, and let's give you a little bit of retrospective history here. Disney acquired the rights to Power Rangers in 2002 during the run of Wild Force, and pretty much did a lot of what was going on in Wild Force. They then decided that after Wild Force, they would cancel the show and show the rest of it in syndication. But they were talked into, and I don't know by who, but they were talked into relocating the show to New Zealand and switching all the actors to non-union actors so that they could continue production but do it much cheaper. And as we know, the entire Disney era was filmed in New Zealand, and of course now even the new series, the new Saban series, Samurai and Megaforce, are also in New Zealand. And of course it's the fact that it's in New Zealand which is problematic, because the majority of Power Rangers guest stars and characters are from the first 10 years, and of course located in America, Los Angeles, California, wherever, basically. So as we had stated before, the big issue was getting them all down there in a timely manner, having them afford it, and things of that regard. So it brings up a serious question of, why is the series still in New Zealand? Why is it not moved back to Los Angeles? And there are a number of things I want to go ahead and discuss here. So I'll try to be as orderly as possible and try not to rant and go off topic too much. So of course the reason for New Zealand is it's cheaper down there. I don't know exactly what the benefits of filming New Zealand are for the production team and everything, but I assume we're getting a lot of New Zealand people jobs down there, which I guess is great. I don't know if the writing crew is still here in the United States or post-production or anything like that, but we know that filming and regular production, pre-production, that's all taking place down in New Zealand. One of the complaints, or the two major complaints I have about it, is one, they're not utilizing their location. One of the big reasons that Peter Jackson wanted to film Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit in New Zealand, not only because he's from there, but he utilized the great landscapes that they had and the different locations that they had. They went everywhere on the North Island, the South Island, everywhere to film those movies, and still filming with The Hobbit. Power Rangers, for whatever reason, has limited their filming to quarries, small forests, parks, and a lot of interior sets. When I had first heard that Power Rangers was moving to New Zealand, and this is way back in 2003, I thought they'd be utilizing more of those landscapes that we saw in the Lord of the Rings movies. That we would be having actors up in mountain environments, that they would be in these weird rock formations that we saw the Fellowship in and all that. But I guess I was hoping for too much, because even though they're producing Power Rangers at a fraction of the cost that the normal series costs in the United States, they still want to limit themselves to a lot of sets in single locations a lot of the time. Yes, they'll go to the beach every now and then, and yes, they will go to the quarry and everything, but you would think that they would go to different locations to utilize what they're doing. That's one issue that I have with them in New Zealand is, again, they have all these great locations that we know that we've seen before, but for whatever reason they choose not to go there. Second would be the acting. And, one of the main things I saw with the Disney series is, I'm going to say, in just my opinion, that the actors were not as great. Yes, you had some good actors, but you had some really terrible actors, stilted dialogue and so forth. Not to say that the Saban era didn't have any of that, but it was less as the series went on. As Power Rangers went on, you got better actors, probably because the standards increased. And, around Hollywood, it's like, oh, Power Rangers, it's just not that new thing that came out. It's an established product, and they want to get better actors as they go along. Not the case for New Zealand and all that, because first of all, the entire Samurai cast, with probably the exception of Mike, those guys are all local from either New Zealand or Australia, and they weren't all that good. I'm not incredibly enthusiastic about the Megaforce cast and what I've seen in their acting. And I'll bring up a prime example, Taizon from Operation Overdrive. Man, he was stilted, and he didn't look like he had any direction when he was acting. So, and part of that might have been that they went non-union. I don't know much about the unions. That's one thing we really haven't discussed too much, at least in my film courses. But typically in the unions, you have to apply for them. You have to be, not so much well respected, but be talented enough to be part of this guild of the union and so forth. And of course, with non-union, let's take this to voice acting, because, and I'll bring up Turtles Forever again to cite an example, because 4Kids Entertainment is a non-union operation. And so when they did Turtles Forever, they couldn't get union actors like Townsend Coleman, Rob Paulson, James Avery, who, rest in peace, he just passed away not too long ago. But they couldn't get those guys to do the voices. And say what you will about the 87 series, but those voices were iconic. Those actors are still in work to this day, and they were awesome. It's like basically you could turn off the picture and listen to the voices, and it could play as a radio drama because their voices were so rich, so colorful, so different. But when you get to the 03 Turtles, the voices aren't like that. They're not as rich. They're not as diverse. So even when they did Turtles Forever to get non-union actors to play the roles of these characters, they sounded nothing like them. It took away from the overall illusion of Turtles Forever because they just didn't sound the same. So it is my belief, again, from the knowledge that I have, that it's pretty much the same way with non-union and actors, that they're just not getting as good of talent. Now, again, there are some actors from the Disney era and the new Saban era who are good actors, and, I'm fine with. But there are some actors I'm just kind of like, I don't know what was going on there. I don't know, any of that stuff. And I just feel that if the series was still based in the United States, it's getting harder to become an actor nowadays. They're being more scrutinous with who they get and how many roles that they're in, and how they look and how they talk and all that. It's become a much bigger competition nowadays for television shows and movies. And I almost wonder if that would be a benefit for Power Rangers if they were still in the United States. So, I mean, with down New Zealand, I don't understand why, again, we have those two things. Because one of my first thoughts is when we had Power Rangers bought back by Saban is that they would relocate Power Rangers back to the United States. We'd be filmed here again. We'd get union actors again. It would be basically what we had before, because the formula worked back then, and we just retinker it to fit a new generation, basically almost a Mark II of Power Rangers relaunched in the United States. That wasn't the case. Saban decided to keep the show down in New Zealand, and of course that set up a big problem with the Rangers coming back to reprise the cameo roles. So my immediate question was, if you knew you were going to do an anniversary series, and let's be honest, they knew they were going to have to do something to equal what they did in Gokaiger. Why didn't they move it back to the United States? I would have to imagine Saban's got more money now than what he had back then when he started Mighty Morphin. And that he could bring it back and still do it, on budget and everything. I just don't understand, why was it not moved back up? I understand you have to keep a profit. You have to, you have to work within your budget. And if it's cheaper to film in New Zealand, great. But if you're saving all that money, then why don't you invest in other things? Again, like go back to union actors. Why wasn't that changed? Because as far as I can tell, there's still non-union actors. I'm going to admit this is one of the topics I probably have the least amount of information on, because it's really hard to find anything as far as why Power Rangers does anything they're doing, because there just isn't a lot of information out there. It's very difficult to get a hold of somebody that may specifically have that information. But from what I can go ahead and tell, they just decide, hey, we'll keep it going, because it wasn't really much of a big change, other than they bought a couple of HD cameras and kept a lot of the same crew, which would explain why a lot of those issues from Jungle Fury and RPM bled over in the Samurai and continuing into Megaforce, at least my opinion, and a lot of the bonehead mistakes that have been going on. But I really think it's a disservice to Power Rangers to not have it in Los Angeles, simply because, I just think there's so many benefits that you can get for bringing the series back to the United States, because it would almost make Power Rangers, I think, relevant again. Because here's the weird thing about it, is that it's being filmed in another country, being produced by people from other countries, being acted by people from other countries, that there is no connection anymore, I think, to its American roots. Which I think is so unusual, considering it's a show that originally started in Japan and was adapted into an American show. That being said, however, I would love to see what current talent here in the United States could actually do to improve upon that show, whether they be people working behind the scenes, cinematographers, cameramen, grips, whatever. And then, I think we have American writers, but we need higher standards on the writers to begin with in the first place. But actually bring in some fresh, young American talent. Because, you look at shows like, I'm trying to like any Fox show or CBS show and all that. You get relative nobodies that get their first break and they become successful, but they're really good actors. That's a weird thing about Power Rangers. We really don't have anybody that's really broken out to become a great actor. For all that we have. There's some good actors, but nobody's like broken out from Power Rangers. That was their starting place. It's not like Tom Hanks when he started on Bosom Buddies or anything like that. But bring in some American talent and all that. Bring people who can actually act, and child actors who can do an accent other than New Zealand or Australian accents. But, I say I'm rambling, and I always end up doing that, but I simply would like to know, why is the show still there? And if it's a money-saving measure, then why aren't they doing more with it? If you're saving, say they're saving a quarter of the money they would spend on the American series, well, what's all that extra money going for? It's not going for better special effects. The special effects have pretty much been the same for the last couple of years. It's not going to pay the actors, I don't think. It's not going for hiring better writers, because let's be honest, the writing has dipped down a lot in recent years. So where is this money going? And if you're not using that money, if it's just going to line the pockets of the producers, then why not just move it back? So I guess this is more of a question than anything else than it is me just examining the situation. But it's a situation I don't agree with. I think it should be brought back to the United States. And, as a person in film, here's the thing. I would love to work on Power Rangers one day. But you know what? As somebody who's going to be out of college soon, somebody who's married and everything, for me to be able to work on Power Rangers is going to be very difficult, because moving to New Zealand is something I don't think my wife is going to agree with me on. And don't misunderstand, this is not my whole thing, like I want to work on Power Rangers now, I can't because it's in New Zealand. I'm just saying that, I'm sure there are tons of people who would like to work on Power Rangers. I know a lot of people who are aspiring screenwriters right now that I'm sure would love an opportunity to work on a show like that, to take their writing and put it in there. But, it looks like that, again, these jobs are in New Zealand, and a lot of them are not coming from the States and all that. And I know how people are all upset about outsourcing companies and, buy American-made products and stuff like that. So I'm surprised this hasn't gotten more people's attention. And we know that a lot of movies are being filmed everywhere nowadays. They're being filmed in Georgia, they're being filmed in Toronto, they're being filmed in New Mexico because of all the perks that the local governments give you and all that. But I would just love to see the series return back to the United States and go back to the quality programming that was, because I admit the quality I think was better, especially the music. All that was better, I think, when it was in the United States, because, again, the Disney era was something I did not enjoy as a whole. There were good instances of things that I did like, but overall I didn't. And the new Saban era seems to be suffering same problems that Disney had. I don't think all of them are attributed to New Zealand, but that seems to be the common factor between those two different eras of Power Rangers. So I'm going to go ahead and stop ripping on the New Zealanders in this, and I apologize if I offended anybody, but definitely let's see the series back to America. Let's see, let's give them a try. Why not? Why is it still down there? Let's get an answer for that, and let's see what the series is going to go ahead and do. Well, again, I apologize for taking too much of your time tonight. Otherwise, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and the tavern is now closed.